Welcome to The Explainer. So if you've spent any time at all studying the biblical text, you already know it is not just some random, disconnected collection of ancient books. It's actually a highly integrated, meticulously woven tapestry. Today, we're going to unravel this sprawling canon by pulling on 6 of the 13 major theological threads that unite the whole thing, literally from Genesis to Revelation. Let's kick things off with this incredibly cinematic, highly visual excerpt from Daniel chapter 7. His throne was ablaze with flames. The court sat and the books were opened. It perfectly sets the epic stage for our journey, doesn't it? We have to treat these ancient texts exactly as the authors intended, as a unified, historical, and cosmic reality. We're looking at a grand narrative that stretches all the way from the dirt of Eden straight to the blazing throne room of the Ancient of Days. All right, here is our roadmap for today. We're going to trace 6 major themes: the unified tapestry, covenantal architecture, the true sanctuary, the divine messenger, the cosmic conflict, and finally we'll wrap up with the Christological telos. Number 1. The unified tapestry, reading the Old Testament as mystery and reveal. To really grasp this tapestry, you've got to look at the Old Testament as a series of visual mysteries, or what we often call types and shadows. Think of them kind of like ancient blueprints just waiting for a New Testament key to finally unlock them. And the author of Hebrews explicitly gives us that key. He states that all those physical, ancient things, the laws, the feasts, the sacrifices, they were entirely designed to point toward grand spiritual realities. They were just the shadow, not the actual substance. 2. Architecture of the covenant, the framework of the divine promise. The concept of the covenant is absolutely the structural framework of the entire narrative. It builds from this broad, universal promise into a deeply intimate transformation of the human heart. Just look at the progression here. We start way back with the Noahic covenant, which was marked by a massive physical sign, right up in the sky, the bow in the cloud. Then it narrows down to the Abrahamic covenant, promising literal land and nations. But eventually we reach the New Covenant era, detailed in Hebrews 10. And this is wild because the ultimate reality isn't a sign in the sky or a patch of dirt anymore. It's God's law written directly onto the human heart and mind. The external shadow becomes internal substance. 3. The true sanctuary motif, from tents in the wilderness to the heavenly throne room. When we track the sanctuary concept into Hebrews 8, the crucial takeaway is that the writer doesn't contrast the old cloth tent with the later stone temple. Actually, he lumps both Moses' tabernacle and Solomon's temple into the exact same category: earthly copies made with human hands. He contrasts literally everything built by humans against the true cosmic sanctuary, the one pitched by the Lord. It's eternal and it's entered once for all by Christ. And hey, speaking of those earthly shadows, we really need to pivot for a second to dismantle a pretty popular theory regarding the sanctuary feasts. During the Feast of Weeks, or Pentecost, the priest waved 2 loaves of bread baked with leaven. Now, some folks argue these loaves represent a divided political kingdom, the separated 2 houses of ancient Israel and Judah. But logically, that just falls apart. It retroactively applies a later political schism to what was originally a unified Mosaic harvest festival. Plus, it completely ignores the fact that leaven represents sin. That doesn't fit a perfectly purified spiritual house, right? Instead, the New Testament reality shows these 2 leavened loaves represent the groundbreaking unification of sinful Jews and sinful Gentiles, both saved by grace, being brought together into one body. As Ephesians chapter 2 tells us, Christ himself is our peace. This entirely shatters the barrier between factions. There are no longer 2 fractured houses being maintained in the New Testament. No, Christ permanently unified all people into a single corporate body, the one new man. 4. The divine messenger, the mystery of the angel of the Lord. Okay, this is arguably the most fascinating mystery in the entire text. We're talking about a specific, recurring figure who intercepts human history with absolute divine authority. This isn't just your run-of-the-mill angel dropping off a message. This specific angel of the Lord actually speaks in the first person as God. He accepts human worship, which, by the way, created angels strictly forbid. He operates as a supreme military commander with a drawn sword in Joshua. And time again, witnesses like Hagar or Samson's father Manoah are absolutely terrified because they equate seeing this specific angel with seeing the literal face of God himself. So what does this all mean? Well, it brings us to a mind-bending conclusion that really forms the bedrock for Orthodox Trinitarianism. We call this a Christophany. Basically, it's a pre-incarnate manifestation of the second person of the Trinity. It's the mechanism by which the transcendent, invisible God could interact with humanity without, destroying them. It shows us that God the Son was actively shepherding his people long before Bethlehem.
5. The cosmic end-time conflict. The unified portrait of the ultimate adversary. Now we turn to the darkness. What is so incredible about this final, dramatic rebellion against God is just how remarkably consistent the profile is across completely different biblical eras. Whether you're reading about Gog in Ezekiel 38, the king of the north in Daniel 11, or the beast in John's Revelation, the strategic blueprint is identical. They invade from the north. They lead the exact same global multinational coalitions, specifically naming Libyan and Ethiopian allies. And most importantly, they don't fall to human armies. They meet a sudden, supernatural demise by divine intervention. The scriptures are simply painting different portraits of the exact same ultimate adversary. When analyzing this conflict, scholars love to debate exactly how to interpret the ancient warfare described. Some literalists argue that a future power grid collapse will literally force armies back to using wooden bows and spears, which Israel will then burn as fuel for 7 years, just like Ezekiel says. Others look at it as a symbolic apocalyptic archetype, that these ancient weapons are just a 2,600-year-old idiom representing the total, utter dismantling of human military pride. But you know what? Regardless of which framework you lean towards, the theological reality remains absolute. God's sovereignty completely shatters all human opposition.
6. The Christological Telos, the convergence of all things.
Finally, we reach the end. The word telos literally means the ultimate goal or purpose. And this is where all these sprawling ancient threads tie together into a single perfect knot. What's truly breathtaking is how the New Testament frames Christ. As Hebrews 1 states, he is the radiance of God's glory and the exact representation of his nature. Christ is not presented as some kind of plan B or a brand new idea. He is the eternal substance that was casting all those ancient shadows we've just been exploring. Look at how perfectly the tapestry resolves here. Jesus is the final, eternal covenant written directly on our hearts. He is simultaneously the ultimate sacrifice and the high priest of the true heavenly sanctuary, bridging earth and heaven forever. He is that visible divine messenger, the angel of the Lord, now come in the flesh. And he is the conquering king who crushes the cosmic rebellion once and for all. He is the total fulfillment of the law, the prophets, and the Psalms. So, I want to leave you with a final thought to really chew on. If this massive, complex, sprawling biblical canon is actually a single, cinematic tapestry culminating perfectly in Christ, how does that change the way you approach its ultimate message? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep studying, keep asking the hard questions, and whatever you do, keep pulling on those threads.